I was 20 years old in 1967. I was a third-class petty officer in damage control, and we were ordered to leave Abidjan, Africa, and we headed for the Mediterranean. We got on station at approximately 6 o'clock in the morning. At approximately 6:05, Israeli aircraft were circling the ship. We knew they were Israeli aircraft because we could see the Star of David on them. We waved at the pilots waved back. We felt very comfortable. There was at least 12 overflights of the ship from 0600 to approximately 11 or 11:30. Our intercept operators on the ship picked up information from the Israelis notifying their base in Haifa that this was an American ship, and they identified it as Liberty, AGTR-5, an American ship. And this was passed on and picked up by listening bases in Beirut, Lebanon, at the American Embassy. It was picked up in Vietnam, believe it or not. It was picked up in Greece. That the Israelis themselves identified us as American. They put us on their war table as an American ship. We were in international waters, 12.5 miles off the coast of the Sinai. At approximately 1 o'clock, we had a general quarters drill, which is a drill to test our skills for, at that time, it was a chemical drill. We were in chemical suits, and it was hot, believe me. It was a hot day. And the sky was clear. The flag was flying. No obstructions. We knew had been identified, and the only word we had, would be the Arabs. We thought that would be the only people, but we knew our good friends, the Israelis, were there. If anything happened, we knew we were protected. Before we got into the area, by the way, the captain did ask for a destroyer escort because we were going into a war zone. But we were in international waters. They refused him. They told him that you're flying an American ensign. The Israelis know you're there. Don't worry about it. We secured from general quarters about 10 minutes to 2. I went up on the forward gun mount. The sound-powered phones weren't working, and I was the damage control officer of the forward repair party. So I went to the CIC where the guys to take care of that, and they sent a guy up there by the name of David Skolak to repair the sound-powered phones. Now we were in condition 3, readiness. This means we had 4 50 caliber machine guns on the ship, and they were all manned because of condition 3. We could see on the land black smoke and fires and bombs and things going off. And then at 2 o'clock, the attack started. It started with 3 French Mirage jets. They hit every single antenna on that ship, operating antenna. There were 40 of them. And now this ship was the most sophisticated ship in the world for telecommunications. They hit every antenna on the ship, and we couldn't get a word out to anybody for about 10 minutes. Terry Haldebardier jury-rigged an antenna that had been shut down. The tuner had been shut down. These guys were shooting at us with heat-seeking missiles. And they took out first all the antennas. They took out the captain's gig. They took out the whale boat, and they took out 99% of our life rafts. This attack lasted about as long as the attack on Pearl Harbor. There were over 820 rocket and cannon holes in the ship. There were approximately 5,000 50 caliber armor-piercing bullets in the ship. And they also fired napalm at us. They dropped napalm on the bridge of the ship. As we were trying to get the dead and the wounded off the decks, they would fire at us. The crew of 294, there was 172 wounded, 34 killed, and since then, probably 50 or 60 of those have passed from their wounds. About 15 minutes into the attack, we got a word out to the 6th Fleet. We were under attack by unknown jet aircraft. They had colored their planes and marked out the Star of David. There was no markings on these planes. We didn't know who was attacking us. And we called the USS Saratoga and the USS America. Captain Tourney launched immediately. Ready aircraft. Now these were conventional aircraft. They weren't nuclear tipped, and they were on their way to help us. McNamara gets on the phone and says, "Send those planes back. Bring them back. Bring them back." Now, he said to in the war room, "We're not going to attack our ally Israel." Now we didn't know who was attacking us, because they were unmarked planes. How did they know who was attacking us? The USS America sent aircraft out of their planes, off their aircraft carrier. They were nuclear tipped. They were going to incinerate Egypt. McNamara again, he called those planes back. Admiral Geist said, "I want to rearm and go to the Liberty's defense. They're still under attack." This is about probably 45 minutes into the attack. With the holes in the ship and the damage that was done, the experts said it had to be at least 12 to 18 aircraft that attacked us. About 50 minutes, 60 minutes into the attack, here comes 3 motor torpedo boats. And they got in a torpedo mode. There was like a torpedo boat here, one behind it, and one behind it. They had 2 torpedoes on each boat, 6 total. They fired 5 torpedoes, and one didn't go off. And 5 torpedoes came at us at one time. 2 went aft. I believe one went forward, and the other one, I don't know where it went, but I do know where the last one went. It hit in the research bases below the waterline, instantly blowing to bits 25 American sailors. The impact of the torpedo was so great, it picked the ship completely up out of the water. And it just went back down. The ship was just like weeping. It was hurt so bad. We started listing and listing and listing, and I thought the ship was going to roll over. But it didn't. It started to stabilize. I was ordered to the bridge to help put out fires. And we didn't have any water pressure because they put holes in most of our fire hoses. And besides that, our pumps weren't working properly. So we couldn't pump as much water as we needed. We were basically just dead in the water. Got to the bridge, had 2 CO2 bottles, and trying to put out the napalm. And it was impossible. You couldn't put that stuff out. It's just jelly and it'd keep on burning. And I'll never forget, I looked over at the helmsman. He was a very good friend of mine. His name was Francis Brown. I met him when I first got aboard the ship in 1965. We were good buddies. We used to play pool together and everything like that. And he was one of the most well-liked men aboard the ship. And I looked at him as I was getting ready to go down the passageway and get another CO2 bottle. I looked directly in his eyes, and he looked at me and didn't say a word, and he didn't say a word. I went back down, got what CO2 bottles I could. I came back up, and I got on the bridge, the deck, and there was blood all over, and I flew up, slipped, and fell on my back. And it was Francis Brown's blood. A 50 caliber bullet came and blew off the back of his head. The captain at that time had been injured. There were still dead and wounded on the main deck and on the second level. The 50-gallon cans of gasoline we had on the ship, they were on fire, or they were burning. And the torpedo boats would circle the ship and shoot at our firefighters and stretcher bearers. They wanted us all dead. They wanted us all murdered. And 2 days after that, or the next morning, the USS America and the USS Davis and the USS Massey got to us 18 hours after the attack. So they left us out there. They didn't even send a Piper Cub to see how we were doing. I mean, they could have sent at least one airplane to give us direction. Our compasses were out. We had nothing. We were sailing by the stars. But our country left us there. They made a decision. Hopefully, they thought we were going to break up in the middle of the night and all of us die. But we thought the Israelis were going to come back and get us. But they didn't, because the word was out. We knew who attacked us. About 15 minutes after the torpedo boats left, they sent 2 helicopters with commandos in them, ready to board our ship to finish us off. They circled the ship. One got close to the forecastle, and I was looking him right in the eyeball. And he was looking at me, and I went just like that. And he replied with the same finger. But they did not board our ship. Like I say, the next day the Massey came by, the Davis came by. They got the dead and the wounded off. So they said, go to Malta, which was a 7-day trip from where we were to Malta. And they could have sent us to Crete, but it was only 3 days. But the USS Papago was behind us, a fleet tug, and they were picking up papers, pieces of bodies. There were 6 bodies that floated out they never did find. And there was a mass grave in Arlington honoring their sacrifice. I was ordered by an Admiral Kidd when he came aboard our ship. I told him what he did. He got 4 or 5 of us in a group. He took off his stars. This was in sick bay at the time. I remember he threw them on the table. It was a stainless steel table, and it rang. And he says, you guys talk to me just like, I'm a regular sailor. Tell us what happened, what you saw. Did you see any markings? So on and so forth. We told him exactly what we saw. He put his stars back on. He said, now I'm an admiral again. And I'm telling you, if you ever breathe a word of this to your parents, to the press, to your shipmates, to anybody, I'll make sure you either go to prison or worse. And everybody else knew what worse meant. And then we were briefed by the CIA and the National Security Agency never to say a word about it. And I did it for 20 years. I was in a hole. I was in a depression you couldn't believe. The Israeli government and our government, they might as well have fired the bullets at all of you sitting right here, because when they attack one American, they attack us all. If the American public knew what Israel did to this American ship, they would be outraged. They would, our passion and attachment for Israel would not be passionate very long. We'd be done with them.